For today's lab, we're going to be working on Hot Solutions Lab. So make sure you get your own copy. You can either download it, print it out, or just use directly from your computer. The one thing to note, obviously we can't do the full lab in a small amount of time, so I'm only going to be showing a portion of it, and then I'll provide data for the remaining parts. Read through the lab first so you can get a better understanding. Even if you're not conducting the lab, there will be questions later on that's going to ask you to anticipate what could be potential errors that could have happened within this lab. So I needed you to see at least the visual of it. So what we have here, we have water, and based on the procedure, it's asking us to use 75 milliliters of water. I have a smaller beaker than what was stated in this procedure. It says 250. We only have, this is about 140, but we don't need a large beaker for this experiment. We also have calcium chloride, so it kind of looks like this powder inside this vial here, and a thermometer, a weigh boat, and our digital scale. Later on, once I have all the data, I'll help fill in the tables that you guys can use. All right. For this demo, I'm going to be focusing on 2 grams. So let me put on my goggles, and I'm going to weigh 2 grams of our calcium chloride using our Scoopula. First, okay, that's 0, that's good. So yeah, keep in mind, like, this is, I've set it, but in the lab, if I had this removed and you set it down like so, it's important to always 0 your scale. So now I'm going to add 2 grams. Pretty close, 1.92. So just add. Again, along the way as I'm showing you this demonstration, try to imagine potential errors that could have happened throughout the experiment that could lead to the variation in data. We're at 1.98. Let's see if I could try to be as precise as possible here. Almost there. And let's see if I can, there you go. 2.00 grams. Okay. Let's close this. I'm going to move our setup on that side. Close this down. I'm going to move our scale further back. And I want to make sure you could see the thermometer reading. Let me set this down for a start. All right, so they're going to ask us first to determine a starting temperature and of the water, so our initial temperature. So if you look at the table up here, so all of these tables right here, trial 1, 2, 3, 4, are multiple trials of the same exact mass. So let's say we're filling in trial 1 for initial temperature. So let me put this in our beaker. I pre-measured our water, so that's 50, and then here's 25. I didn't have a large enough, so this should be roughly 75 milliliters. And I'm going to put a thermometer in there. Okay. I'll let it acclimate for a little bit, and then we can record our starting temperature. So it is looking like our starting temperature is about, if it settles down in a bit, we'll record it. Okay, we'll call it a 24.8. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add our calcium chloride, the 2 grams of calcium chloride that we pre-measured earlier. And then typically I would have a steering rod here, but I'm going to have to use our thermometer and try to get as much. So notice my weigh boat here. There's quite a few of my calcium chloride getting stuck in there. So as much as I can. All right. I'm gonna use my scupula. Usually we'd have a glass stirring rod, and the goal is for us to measure the temperature at the end of the 2 minute. And I have a clock right above me, and I'm using that as a timer. I'm also making sure that I dissolve our calcium chloride. Temperature is still increasing. 1 more minute. "30 seconds. It looks like the temperature had settled down, but just to make it official, we are going to be calling it at 26.4 degrees. So what we're going to do now is fill this up. 26.4 degrees. Temperature initial, temperature final. The next step is you'll be asked to, if we were doing this in class, you would be asked to repeat this trial multiple times. So now, based on previous data, I'm going to record some of the numbers here. So what if we end up with 24.8, 24.6, 24.4, and we end up with 25.8, 26.1, and 26.3. So within each pair of trials, you're going to be asked to calculate the delta T, the change in temperature. What do you do with the delta T for each set of these trials? That's going to be the information that's going to go at the bottom table here. So it says amount of CaCl2, we measured 2 grams. The change in temperature, so the change in temperature formula is right here. So it's asking you to find the difference of final minus initial. Then once you have that determined, then I need you to show the answers right there. And then finally at the end, it's asking you to average it out. Any math that you have to do, show your work. Where do you show that work? There is a step on this page. It says data processing. Show your work for calculating the delta T and show your work for calculating the average change in temperature. So although the table on the front page is what we're filling up, the work is being shown under data processing. All right, now that we have all the information, that information is only actually going to be for 2 grams. So whatever your average change in temperature for 2 grams, that's going to go in this row. So I'm going to leave that row empty, but what I'm going to do is provide data for all the other ones. Imagine we were able to do this lab and each table was assigned a specific mass. Some tables will be given 0 grams, or that means they didn't get any calcium chloride. Others will be given 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8 grams. So let me give you the data for the remaining class data here. Okay, so in previous experiment, what if the average change in temperature at 0 is 0? There's no change. All right, at 1, it will be 1.025. At 2, I'm going to leave it blank because you need to do the calculation for the sample data I provided. Meaning, based on this, you could fill in the table in the front and use your average change in temperature to fill in the 2 grams. 3 grams, what if we end up with 3.18? For 4, 4.15. For 5, 5.45. For 6, we have 6.87. For 7, we have a 7.95. And then for 8, we have a 10.23 change in temperature, average change in temperature. So again, this is missing because that's what I need you to do the calculation for. So now you have the information for this table. It's on the second page. And from that point on, what I'd like you to do is work on making sure that you have your data processing, you answer the discussion question, and then you talk about conclusion and evaluation. For this lab, I'm going to ask you to skip the graphing exercise on the side here, because what I'll do is I'll help explain you through that and go through the process of how to use Excel and other programs in order for you to draw a graph or create a graph and set up a best fit line. Okay, here are the data again, just for good measure. Here's our initial and final for 2 grams. Here is our class data set, the table on the back, with missing information for 2 grams because you do have to calculate that. And all right, that's the end of our demo.